So this video is going to talk about the 4 operations on rational functions. So we're going to take a look at multiplying and dividing rational functions, and then adding and subtracting. And then we're going to also take one last look at complex fractions and how to simplify them. So hopefully it's not too long of a video. All right, let's start with multiplication of rational functions. So when we multiply rational functions, we're going to follow these steps. The first step would be to factor. So you want to always factor your rational functions first. So step 2 is to cancel any like terms in the numerator and the denominator. A whole term is separated as multiplying groups. So if you had x minus 4, that is one whole term. So the only way you could cancel out an x minus 4 is that there is a multiple of x minus 4 on the denominator or the numerator. So step 3, the last step, is to multiply the numerators across and the denominators across after you cancel. So let's take a look at an example here. We have x squared minus 4 over x plus 3 times x squared minus 4x, plus 4x plus 3 over x plus 2. And I want to multiply this rational function across. The first thing that I need to do is factor. So we'll do that in the corresponding steps. I have x squared minus 4 is just x minus 2. X plus 2. I can't factor x plus 3, so I've got x plus 3 here. And then times, let's factor the numerator there. We have x plus 3, x plus 1 over x plus 2. Now we're going to look, we have all of these numerators, all of these values in the numerator and all the whole values in the denominator. We can look to see if we can cancel anything. So here I have this x plus 3 right here. This x plus 3 and this x plus 3, because one's in the numerator and one's in the denominator, they will cancel out. And then I have an x plus 2 in the denominator. That should cancel out with the denominator or numerator there. So then my final answer is just taking everything that's left over. Anything that's in the numerator stays in the numerator. Anything that is left over in the denominator would stay in the denominator. Since everything canceled out in my denominator, we have our final answer. Let's look at one more example of that type of problem. So the first thing we want to do, here's my problem, x squared plus 2xy plus y squared over x squared minus 2xy plus y squared times 4x minus 4y over 3x plus 3y. So let's first factor. I have here x plus y times x plus y or x plus y squared. Doesn't really matter how you write that. And then in the bottom we have x minus y times x minus y. And then on the top we can factor a 4 out and we have x minus y. On the bottom we can factor a 3 out. Alright, so we have our entire problem completely factored out. Now let's look and see what we can cancel. I have an x minus y here, so I can cancel out one of them with that. And then I have an x plus y and an x plus y. One of those will cancel from numerator to denominator. And then we can just write whatever's left. So I have 4 times that over 3x minus y. Now remember that whole factors are groups of addition or subtraction, so we cannot cancel out the x's and the y's. because that x plus y and that x minus y are separate groups. If x was 2 and y was 1, you would have 2 plus 1 is 3 divided by 2 minus 1 is 1, so 3 over 1. Now, if you canceled that out, you would end up with just a negative 1. That doesn't work. So your final answer has to contain still the whole groups that did not cancel out. Let's now look at division. Alright, so I wrote out all the steps of division because they are almost all the way the same as multiplication with the exception of step 2. So the first thing in division is you will still factor your polynomial, or factor completely, both the numerators and denominators of both parts of the problem. Alright, so let's say I have the polynomial x squared minus 4 over x plus 3 divided by x squared minus 5x plus 6 over x squared minus 9. So the first thing we want to do is factor this completely. So we have x minus 2, x plus 2, over x plus 3, divided by x minus 2, x minus 3, that looks really bad, x minus 3 over x plus 3, x minus 3. Alright, so that's the first step, is just factoring completely. The second step then is to take that fraction that we have, that back fraction, and I'm dividing. Well, if you can remember this, that division is multiplying the reciprocal, you can take this and rewrite this where we flip this back fraction. So we end up with, I'll try and write it right here, x minus 2, x plus 2. It's kind of annoying to have to keep rewriting these, but so we have x plus 3. And then instead of division, we're going to change that to multiplication. So we're going to multiply the reciprocal. So that would be x plus 3 times x minus 3 over x minus 3 times x minus 2. Okay? And then from there, the steps of multiplication are the same. You're going to cancel like terms. So let's see if anything cancels. I have an x plus 3 here and an x plus 3 here. Those will cancel. I have an x minus 3 here and an x minus 3 there. And then I have an x minus 2 that will cancel out with this x minus 2. Wow. So everything canceled out except for that x plus 2. I kind of didn't mean for that to happen when I wrote the problem, but it works out nice. So then anything that's in the numerator, you just multiply that across. Anything that's in any of the denominators, you multiply that across. So what I really have is x plus 2 times 1 times 1 times 1 over 1 times 1 times 1. And it ends up being x plus 2. Let's look at one more problem like that. Okay, so we have this problem, x squared plus 4x minus 5 divided by x squared minus 24 over x plus 7. So if I don't have anything on either one of my terms, you can think of that over 1. So that will kind of help you balance out the numerators and the denominators. Now from there, let's go ahead and factor. So I have x squared, sorry, that's not factoring. So I have x and x. I've got plus 5 and minus 1 over 1 divided by x plus 5, x minus 5 over x plus 7. Alright, so in division, in order to change the division to multiplication, you just need to go through and change that back fraction. And the front fraction, make sure you keep it the same. You're not doing anything to the front fraction yet. Okay. Now, let's go through. After I have everything factored and the back fraction flipped to multiplication, I'm going to go through, cancel out like terms. So the x plus 5s, they're being multiplied by everything else, so I can cancel those out. And that's it. That's all that cancels out. So then my final answer will be the top parts. I have an x minus 1 in the numerator, and I have an x plus 7 in the numerator. And I'm going to divide that by, in the denominator, I still have an x minus 5. And that will be my entire fraction multiplied through. Alright, that's the end of this first video of multiplying and dividing rational expressions.